The angle of elevation to the top of a building changes from 18 degrees to 36 degrees as an observer advances 160 feet towards the building. Find the height of the building x to the nearest foot. First thing you want to do for this is understand that you're going to need two different triangles, because we're talking about differences from 18 degrees to 36 degrees. And when we talk about that, we also note that the observer advances 160 feet towards the building. So we start with our first triangle, and it doesn't have to be perfectly drawn, but you want to make it as accurate as possible. And this side right here is going to be our height, which we don't know what it is. It's x. Find the height of the building, x. And that's going to go along with the fact that the angle of elevation is 18 degrees to start with. And we do not have any idea how long this side is either, so we'll label that as y. Then we're going to draw another triangle. It's going to be a little bit shorter on the bottom side, but the right hand side will be the same height. And we note that this angle is now 36 degrees. Okay? Once again, we don't know what the height of the building is. That is x, and we will label it so. We still really don't know what the bottom side of the triangle is, but we do know that we've advanced 160 feet. So that means we'll take this value y, which is what our original distance was, and we will subtract 160 from that. Now I have two triangles, and we're going to use trigonometric relationships to determine what the side x is. So this first triangle right here, we'll go ahead and understand that we're going to use opposite over adjacent. So we'll have to use the tangent function. So we'll have the tangent of 18 degrees, and that will be equal to the opposite side, which in this case is going to be x, and that's going to be over the adjacent side, which in this case is going to be y. Just leave that alone for the moment, and let's go to the next triangle and let's set up that relationship. Once again, we know that it'll be a tangent, and the reason we know that it'll be a tangent is because this is an opposite over an adjacent. So let's set up the equation. It's going to be tangent of 36 degrees equal to x over y minus 160. Now that we've got this, what we're going to do is we're going to solve both of these equations for x. So I'm going to multiply both sides of this equation by y, and I will have x is equal to y times the tangent of 18 degrees. Once I do that, I will come over to this next one, and I'm going to multiply both sides of the equation by y minus 160. Basically what I'm doing is I'm clearing the the fraction out of the equation, which will make it a lot easier to deal with. And this will be multiplied by the tangent of 36 degrees. And that will be equal to x. Alright, now that we've done this, we can see a couple of things. First off, when I look at this, I note that x and x are by themselves in these two equations, which means that I can use the transitive property of equality. If a equals b and b equals c, then a equals c. So since this is equal to x and this is also equal to x, I will now set them equal to each other. So I will have y tangent 18 degrees is equal to the quantity y minus 160 times tangent of 36 degrees. So I will need to use the distributive property and multiply this tangent by y and this tangent by negative 160. And when I do that, my equation now looks like this. Y times the tangent of 18 degrees is equal to y times the tangent of 36 degrees minus 160 times the tangent of 36 degrees. Now the next thing that we'll need to do is go ahead and move like terms to the same side of the equation. And when I mean like terms, we're talking about this term right here and this term right here. So I will need to subtract the y tangent 36 degrees from both sides, and I end up with the following. So y times the tangent of 18 degrees minus y times the tangent of 36 degrees equals negative 160 times the tangent of 36 degrees. Now we will factor the y out of both terms on the left hand side, and we will now have y times the quantity tangent 18 degrees minus tangent 36 degrees is equal to negative 160 times the tangent of 36 degrees. Now what I'm going to do is divide both sides of the equation by this expression right here. Tangent 18 degrees minus tangent 36 degrees. And in doing so, I will isolate the y, and I will have an expression that will represent the height of the building. So y will be equal to, y is equal to negative 160 times the tangent of 36 all over the quantity tangent 18 degrees minus tangent of 36 degrees. You want to input this into your calculator as stated, but you're going to make sure when you do that you add in some things. You're going to want to put parentheses around this, and then you're going to want to put parentheses around this expression. So that way when you enter it into your calculator, you're following the order of operations and it works to minimize round-off error. I'm going to go ahead and use a web-based calculator for this so that you can see exactly how I enter it into the calculator. We're going to use web2.0calc.com, which is a free online calculator. So we'll go ahead and we will click into the enter field, and we're going to enter it exactly like it's written right up here. Okay? So we'll open parentheses, and then we will type in a negative 160. Now you can either use the keyboard that's here, or you can use your keyboard on your computer. For this one, I'm just using the keyboard that's here so that you'll see exactly what I'm doing. So I now have negative 160. We're going to multiply that by the tangent of 36 degrees. You'll notice that it defaults 2 degrees in this case. Oops. I'm going to close that parentheses, and I'm going to close them again so that I've got everything covered. Then I go ahead and hit divide. I'm going to open parentheses again, and we will type in tangent, and this time we're going to enter 18 degrees, and we will close parentheses, and then we will subtract tangent again, open parentheses, and that will be 36. And we will close parentheses on that. And then finally we will close the outside parentheses, and we will hit equals, and we are given this value right up here, 289.44. So that's what we're going to use. Now this is not my answer, okay? You might be tempted to say, oh, we've calculated the answer, but we got to remember what the diagram looked like. So when we look at the diagrams, we see that y, this value that we've just calculated here, which is 289.44, is actually the bottom side of the first triangle. So I'd write down 289.44. Now once again, I'm going to use the tangent relationship because I have an opposite over adjacent situation. So let's go ahead and write out that relationship. The tangent of 18 degrees will be equal to the opposite side, which is x, all over. Okay, so now we've got x over 289.44, which means that in order to figure out how tall the building is, we'll multiply both sides of the equation by 289.44. So x will be equal to 289.44 times the tangent of 18 degrees. And then we will once again plug this into the calculator. Okay, so we'll use the calculator again, and we'll go ahead and type in the number 289.44 times the tangent of 18 degrees, and we'll make sure that we close the parentheses on that. You'll notice that it's typed in up here above the calculator interface. We'll press equals, and we have 94.044. But remember that the directions called for rounding to the nearest foot. Therefore, we can say that the height of the building is 94 feet.